December 4th, 1872, the brigantine de Gracia is making her way across the Atlantic when her helmsman spots another vessel about 4 miles off. She's moving, but wrong, yawing across the wind, sails in poor trim, no one at the wheel. The de Gracia's captain sends 3 men across in a small boat. They climb aboard. They find a child's toy, a woman's boots, a vial of sewing machine oil, breakfast still on the table. 10 people, gone. This is what it looks like when a ship keeps sailing after everyone on board has disappeared. It has happened more than once. The Mary Celeste was an American brigantine, 103 feet long, built in Nova Scotia. In November 1872, she left New York Harbor bound for Genoa, Italy, carrying 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol. On board were Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and 7 crew members. 10 people total. The last entry in her log was dated November 25, 1872, placing the ship near the Azores. 9 days later, the de Gracia found her sailing herself 400 miles west of the Portuguese coast. The boarding party found the ship in reasonable condition. There was water between the decks, roughly 3.5 feet of it in the hold, but the ship was structurally sound. The lifeboat was gone. The crew's belongings were still there: clothing, pipes, personal effects. The alcohol cargo was intact, with 9 barrels found to be empty but showing no sign of leakage. No signs of violence, no blood, no bodies, no one. Ever. A salvage hearing in Gibraltar investigated the case through late 1872 and into 1873. The Attorney General at the time suggested foul play, but no charges were ever brought. The evidence simply did not support it. The leading theories break into 3 categories. First, the empty barrels. 9 barrels were made of red oak rather than white oak, a more porous wood. Investigators have since suggested the alcohol may have briefly vaporized in the heat of the hold, creating a pressure buildup that blew the hatch covers without igniting. If Captain Briggs believed the ship was about to explode, he may have ordered everyone into the lifeboat, tethered to the ship, intending to reboard once the fumes cleared. If that tether snapped, the ship would sail on. The lifeboat, low in the water and unsheltered, would not last long in open Atlantic seas. Second, a seaquake. There are documented accounts of the area experiencing seismic activity around that time, though the records on this are not precise. Third, everything else: mutiny, pirates, insurance fraud. The Gibraltar hearing looked hard at fraud. It found nothing definitive. No one was ever convicted of anything. All 10 people on board the Mary Celeste were never seen again. The MV Joyita was a 69-foot wooden vessel originally built in 1931 in Los Angeles as a pleasure craft for the film director Roland West. By 1955, she was working in the South Pacific, operating out of Samoa. On October 3rd of that year, she left Apia in western Samoa carrying 25 people, a mix of passengers, crew, and 2 government officials, bound for Tokelau, a journey of about 270 miles that should have taken 48 hours. She never arrived. A search was launched on October 6th when she failed to reach port. On November 10th, 1955, a merchant vessel found the Joyita drifting about 600 miles west of where she was supposed to be. Not 270 miles from Apia, but 600 miles in the wrong direction. She was listing heavily to port. Roughly 4 tons of cargo were missing from the deck. The clocks on board had stopped at 10:25, though investigators could not confirm whether that was AM or PM or which day. The radio was tuned to the international distress frequency, 500 kilohertz, but a faulty connection had limited its range to no more than 2 miles. That detail matters. The Joyita was broadcasting a distress signal that no one far enough away could hear. A doctor's bag was found on deck, open, with medical supplies laid out, suggesting someone had been treated for an injury before the ship was abandoned. All 25 people on board were gone. No bodies were ever recovered. The subsequent investigation, conducted by a commissioner named H.E. Barraclough, produced a report in 1956. It concluded that the most likely sequence of events began with flooding caused by a corroded pipe fitting in the engine room. The ship's refrigeration system had a faulty seawater cooling pipe. As the engine room flooded, the vessel listed. Barraclough believed the crew may have panicked and abandoned ship, in spite of the fact that the Joyita, due to her cork-lined hull and construction, was essentially unsinkable. That last part is documented. She could not have gone to the bottom. Whatever happened, 25 people chose to leave a vessel that could not sink and were never found. Some researchers have suggested piracy, given that the missing cargo and the doctor's open medical bag point to a violent event before abandonment. The Cook Islands were relatively close. The theory remains plausible. It was never proven. The third case is different, and the narration needs to say this plainly. It may not be real. The SS Ourang Medan is a ship whose very existence is disputed. The story, as it circulates in maritime records and newspaper accounts from the late 1940s, goes like this. Sometime in February 1948, the exact date varies depending on the source, 2 American vessels in the Straits of Malacca, between Sumatra and the Malay Peninsula, received a distress signal. The signal identified the sending ship as the Ourang Medan. It described the entire crew as dead. A final transmission followed, reportedly consisting only of the Morse code for the word, "I die." When a rescue vessel, the Silver Star, reached the coordinates and boarded the Ourang Medan, they found the crew dead throughout the ship, on the bridge, in the communications room, on the deck, all with expressions described as horrified, arms outstretched, eyes open to the sun. No wounds on any body. Then the ship caught fire. It sank before it could be towed to port. Here is what the records can confirm and what they cannot. The story was first published in a Dutch-Indonesian newspaper called De Locomotief in 1948, and later picked up by the U.S. Coast Guard's publication, Proceedings of the Merchant Marine Council in 1952. Researchers including Matthias Hopf have spent significant effort trying to locate registry records for a vessel named Ourang Medan in Dutch, Malay, British, or American shipping registries from the period. No verified record of the ship has been found. No casualty report. No manifest. The Silver Star, the rescue vessel named in some accounts, was a real ship, but its logs for the relevant period have not surfaced to confirm the encounter. If something did happen in those straits, the most commonly cited explanation involves the cargo. The Straits of Malacca were, in 1948, a known route for smuggled goods, including potassium cyanide and nitroglycerin, both of which, if improperly stored and exposed to salt water, can produce toxic fumes with no visible injury to those exposed. That would account for bodies showing no wounds and for a subsequent fire from unstable cargo. It's a credible mechanism for the deaths described. But without a verified ship, there is no case to close. The Ourang Medan may be a real incident obscured by the chaos of the post-war Pacific. It may be a fabricated story that spread through legitimate maritime publications before anyone checked the registry. The records disagree, or rather, they simply don't exist. 3 ships: the Mary Celeste, 1872, the MV Joyita, 1955, the Ourang Medan, 1948, if it existed at all. In the first 2 cases, the physical evidence is solid and documented. Investigators walked those decks, wrote reports, called hearings, and still couldn't say with certainty what made 35 people in total leave vessels that were, in both cases, capable of staying afloat. In the third case, we can't even confirm the ship was real, which is a different kind of unsettling. What we're left with across all 3 is the same image: a vessel moving forward, wheel turning, engine running, or sails pulling, in the space where the people used to be. The question isn't what happened to the ships. The question is what those people saw, or heard, or understood in the moments before they went. Something convinced experienced sailors, people who knew the sea, to leave. Whatever it was, not one of them made it back to describe it. If you've come across a case that belongs in these files, leave it in the comments. New files every week. Subscribe to the Night Archive.